I'd like to welcome everyone to PreVeil's August partner webinar. My name is Sam Krebs. I'm the channel sales manager. So I work with all of our reseller and referral partners. So if you ever have any questions regarding your partnership or would like to learn more about the partner program, you can reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to partners@preveil.com. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Jamie Leupold, our Director of Channel Sales and Alliances, along with our VP of Product, Greg LaRoche. And today, I'll be just sharing a few points of why customers are deciding to use PreVeil to store, transmit, process their CUI data. Jamie will be sharing a few updates on CMMC, and Greg will share a few exciting updates regarding the PreVeil products. Orly will share a few updates on upcoming events here to end the year. And as always, we'll have a short Q&A session to conclude today's webinar. So we have two clients on the next slide. I won't read the quotes from the screen exactly, but to summarize, these clients, Rheinstall and Envision, decided to use PreVeil to, again, store, transmit, and process their sensitive information because of the cost-effective solution we have to offer here at PreVeil. Not only are the licenses cost-effective, but you only need to purchase licenses for employees within the organization who handle the CUI data. So that's another way we can keep the cost low for these organizations seeking certification, and which is why we are growing immensely here in the CMMC space. So with that being said, I will pass things over to Jamie to share a few updates on CMMC.
Thanks, Sam. Welcome, everyone. So if we go to the next slide. Let's go to the timeline, yeah, and then we'll come back to that. So, and quite honestly, we had some late breaking news on the Cyber AV town hall last night, so we haven't fully incorporated that yet. But I think the key things to flag here are number one, and we've been repeating this for a while now. CMMC assessments have started. They started officially in January when the JSVA program had ended, and we'd moved on to formal C3PAO assessments being done. And what we're now just kind of waiting for is on the CFR 48 rule, which will allow CMMC to be entered into contracts for that to be published and finalized. As probably many of you heard, this did hit the OIRA, which is one of the final steps back in late July. OIRA does have up to 90 days to review the rule. Typically for a rule of this magnitude, because it's not really creating a new rule so much as just changing how that rule can be implemented into contracts. The thought is that it probably won't take the full 90 days. So we could expect to see it maybe sometime in September published. And then when will it take effect? Could take effect immediately, could take effect within 60 days. We're estimating somewhere in Q4, you'll see the CMMC rule, and you'll start to see CMMC potentially enter contracts. And so, there was an artifact from the CMMC 1.0, which had an October 1st deadline for CMMC entering contracts. For those of you that participated in the town hall last night, they got late breaking news, so I'm sharing it with everyone here, that the DoD has rescinded that officially. They've put out a standard deviation that the October 1st date is no longer in effect, and that CMMC will follow the publication of CFR 48. So just one thing that we did want to cover, because we're hearing this increasingly from customers and prospects on this slide, is understanding cloud services, and in particular, what cloud services need to meet if they are going to be used to store, process, transmit CUI. PreVeil itself, as we know, is FedRAMP moderate equivalent. We've maintained that bar for about a year and a half now, and continue to maintain that high bar. And the FedRAMP authorized, the FedRAMP moderate equivalent requirements are well maintained and instructed. They're part of DoD policy through a memo. They do require us to have a complete body of evidence that is reaffirmed each year by a authorized 3PAO, a FedRAMP 3PAO. It does require us to have 0 POAMs. Very high bar that we have continued to maintain, and in fact, we're currently in our audit cycle for now 2025, 2026. So we have been seeing, some organizations that claim FedRAMP moderate equivalency. If they do, they must have a body of evidence that has been attested to by a 3PAO, and it must be maintained on a monthly basis for some of the scans. Otherwise, other checks are annual. And that is something, that the C3PAO and the CCAs that assess you, will be looking for. We have been seeing an increasing number of organizations that claim to be FedRAMP moderate authorized. So I think it's important for everyone to understand, if you're not using an equivalent cloud service, what do they have to meet? What's the bar to meet to be FedRAMP moderate authorized? We've seen some organizations that are kind of partnering or getting a listing, or maybe they simply host on a authorized cloud service. And that is not enough. That's not sufficient to be considered FedRAMP moderate authorized for the purposes of CMMC. And what I'm sharing with you comes directly from the CAP. But the important things to point out are, number one, in order to be considered a FedRAMP moderate authorized service, you must be listed in the FedRAMP marketplace and listed under the products. And that particular cloud service provider must be listed as a provider, and that service offering must also be listed. So, if you're simply hosting a solution on AWS or AWS GovCloud, but AWS GovCloud is listed as the provider and you don't have your own independent listing, you will not meet the requirements because you won't be listed as a provider. So that's the first thing to check. Second thing to check is the impact level. This one is pretty straightforward. The impact levels are either going to be LI SaaS, low impact SaaS, moderate or high, generally speaking. The impact level does have to be at moderate or high. And then the status, this is an important one. This one tricks a lot of people. The only accepted status per the CAP is FedRAMP authorized. You will see FedRAMP in process. You'll see FedRAMP ready. Organizations may claim that they're FedRAMP ready, and therefore you can use them to store, process, transmit CUI. Unfortunately, that is not the case. FedRAMP ready is it's a bar, but it's certainly not the bar to achieve equivalence. And obviously, it's not FedRAMP authorized. Organizations can obtain ready by hitting a minimum bar, and it's really their way of advertising that they're ready to be reviewed by a government agency as a potential sponsor, but certainly does not mean they're authorized. And this is an important distinction, nor does it mean they're equivalent. You can be ready, not have a full BOE, certainly not have 0 POAMs, because we know you can get FedRAMP authorized with POAMs. So FedRAMP ready does not mean equivalent, and it does not mean authorized, just something to watch out for. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Feel free to use the Q&A if you do have any questions. Again, this is important as CMMC becomes more real in contracts, and especially once they hit contracts. We are going to see more and more cloud service providers entering this area. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts to becoming authorized or even to becoming equivalent. It's a long path, and it's something that every organization has to take on. You can't simply buy an authorization. You cannot buy FedRAMP moderate equivalency. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our VP of Product, Greg LaRoche, for some very exciting product updates.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks very much. I'm going to cover 2 areas today. Some of you that were on the call 2 months ago may have seen a little bit of this, but we're much further along on one of the projects. So to make it a little more clear, we have an initiative ongoing right now, which is a redesign of the PreVeil Drive service. And as many may know, Drive, we've learned a lot, as we have 2,000 customers using it now. And we've decided that it was really time to re-architect it and make it operate in a new, more modern way. And so I have a sneak preview of a prototype that I want to walk people through very quickly, just to kind of show you what CloudDrive is all about, our next generation of PreVeil Drive. And it's going to be in market at the end of this year. So we're looking at Q4 general availability. Right now, it's still in development. The version I'm showing you is a prototype. Hopefully, we will not encounter any demo gremlins, but we'll see. No promises. So I'll share my screen. And here you see our familiar application in Drive, and you can see folders here. None of them have the little green dot, so that indicates they're all in the PreVeil cloud and not synchronized locally on my device in this case. So this is nice. This is the current product. You can only see these folders in the cloud if you use our application, because our Explorer integration only shows local files, things that are on the media, on the machine. And so if you have things locally synced, great, you can see that information in Explorer, but you can't see anything that's cloud only. So all this stuff would be invisible in Explorer. So that's what we're fixing. So let's bring up an Explorer. So now you're in CloudDrive, which is our new new instantiation of Drive, PreVeil Drive. It's going to be it's not going to be renamed in particular, but this is, like I said, prototype. And you'll see the same folders here. Look, all these folders are visible with little clouds next to them. Very cool. It works a lot like OneDrive in that respect. Solid green circles indicates a folder that has been synced locally and won't be removed. All these other folders are in the cloud. I can click into them and I can see even the contents are in the cloud for this stuff. And if I want to actually interact with any of these files, I can download them to work on them later by right-clicking and just saying, keep on this device or what have you. But if I want to just edit a file, the editing is really cool. So I'm just going to open this up. So I double-click this file. What's happening now is it's getting fetched from the PreVeil cloud. It's getting decrypted. It's opening up in Word. And if I look back here at this content, I'll also see that it's locked, edit locked automatically. So that's very cool. And so I can make my changes. I can do whatever I want to do here and then save, exit. Whoops. I wasn't supposed to do that. Wrong exit button. So then I can exit out of here, save this, and it's going to automatically upload a new version and unlock it when I'm done. It's not quite all the way up yet, but it will unlock. And then similarly, if anyone else opens this file because they have it in a shared folder and they have access to it, they're going to get a message that another user has it locked. It's going to look like whatever Word shows you. It's going to say, this edit, open in read-only mode. You won't be able to save changes because another user has this file locked. So we're really enhancing the workflow. We're enhancing the ability to avoid, the file conflicts between concurrent users. And so next really big important step for us. And the other cool thing I'm going to show you, and this is probably the coolest thing of all, is if I try to drag something out of here and I'm going to try to put it on my desktop, it's not going to let me do it. So we have an exfiltration filter now that's going to keep people from moving files out of the PreVeil Drive space if you have that activated as a rule or policy. So all of these things put together are very radical changes for the way Drive is going to work. It's not gonna, it's going to be much more focused on keeping things in the cloud and only bringing them down on demand. You can, like you saw in that other folder, you can bring things down permanently and synchronize them if you want, but that'll just be more of an exception as needed. And then maybe perhaps for working offline. And but other than that, it's really going to operate a lot like the OneDrive service that Microsoft offers and that you may already have on your machine. And so it'll be a familiar interface for customers. They're going to be able to come up to speed very quickly. And our initial testing and feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. People are very excited about this in our customer community, and they are basically saying, when can I have it? So that's an exciting thing. That's CloudDrive. And that, again, coming in Q4, probably towards the end of Q4, if I'm being frank with our partner community. And but stay tuned for that. The next thing I want to show you is an entirely new offering. We, you folks are already aware of PreVeil Compliance Accelerator, all this great content and accelerator for helping customers achieve compliance, sample system security plans, and standard operating procedures based on a fictional company called Acme, and all that stuff is in there, and as long as and organized into a 10-step methodology. But one thing we're missing was a place to store, keep, and manage and project manage a compliance project. Where are we going to see the centralized command and control? Where are we going to keep evidence? Where are we storing these documents? How do we manage workflow and assign tasks to people? Where's the audit trail and reporting? So all these things are provided by a class of software that are commonly referred to as governance, risk, and compliance software or tools. And so we went out and found a GRC tool that we want to offer to our customers. And it is, an OEM'd product that is private labeled for PreVeil, but is created by a different vendor. And so that way we were able to bring it to market very quickly. And I want to give you a peek at what that product looks like. So this is the main control view of our GRC tool. I'm going to get into price and availability in a minute. So for now, just take a look at what it does. It allows you to go through all the 110 controls. You can jump around by family. You can do whatever you need, and you can see a control status here, which ones are implemented, not implemented, and you can get, there's a dashboard view I'm going to go to in a minute that gives you kind of an overall picture of where you're at. And there are also statistics by family here available. So really good overview, but how does it work? So when you click into any one control, you'll see that its control objectives, its assessment objectives are listed and explained here. And then there's a status for each. This control happens to be implemented. So we have all these things checked yes. But you can see a number of tools here. So our implementation statement shows up here, which is based on the Acme example in Accelerator. So this comes preloaded. So it's preloaded with your control implementation statements, all of the examples from Acme Corp that cover all the objectives that are covered by either PreVeil responsibility or customer responsibility. So, and that's all included in here in advance. And you also see a section here called Accelerator, and this has direct links into all the documents from Accelerator that you may need. If they're not already linked into this control, you can open them here and edit them and link them into the controls. Really nice way to get your documentation sorted. And if there are any policies, you can create a policy library in the product, and you can add policies to any control and just link them in. It's one click. It's super easy once the policies exist in your library. You can also upload individual files for evidence, screenshots, anything, procedure documents, whatever you may need can be associated with this control and linked in. And then 2 different kinds of action tracking. This is one-time actions, which are really things people need to do for this control. And since this is implemented, there are no actions here. But if I had a to-do list for this control, I would have these actions here. They'd be assigned to people and with due dates, and the system will bug them to complete their tasks. And then you can have a record of all that in the tracking. And then continuous monitoring is another kind of task. These are the tasks that recur at an interval. So you have to do certain risk reviews, or you have to review incident response plan, or whatever your task environment is for recurring continuous monitoring. You can set those up in here at whatever interval your policies and procedures require. So if you have things you have to do quarterly, you assign them here, you assign them to an owner and track them in the system. And when they're completed, you take advantage of that, and you keep everything in one place, which is really useful because all this information feeds into the report outputs that an assessor would look at later on. It also has a really cool risk management feature, so you can create a risk register in here, add risks when you're doing your risk, your say monthly risk reviews or quarterly risk reviews. You can score risks. There's a little wizard here. It's really easy to add a risk and score it. And then it shows up in your register. You can track it over time. Really nice place to keep your risk register. It also keeps track of approvals that stakeholders have to perform. And it has a reporting engine. And so the reporting engine is cool because it takes all the information we fed into the machine and can generate it in terms of either your POAM, or it can generate your continuous monitoring status. It can do control status and all that stuff, but it also can spit out a system security plan, which is very cool. So I'll pop that open. So what you'll see here is actually a fully populated SSP from all the control implementation statements and in the correct format. So, and that's all, this is all content that's coming from Accelerator into the GRC tool. So this is meant to really make the compliance journey easier for customers. Again, give them a single place, point of record, a single source of truth for all their compliance information. And there's also a dashboard view if you just want to see your SPRS score and how you're doing. You can see right now we're still at -170. We got a lot of work to do, but this is the framework that comes preloaded with the PreVeil version of this tool. So it has the CMMC level 2 framework pre-installed, and you just click into it to see the version we just looked at, the view we just looked at. So very easy to do. So how do I buy it? When is it ready? What does it cost? So it is getting launched on Friday. So the day after tomorrow. It will be made available during September as a promotion to existing PreVeil customers that have Accelerator already. And there'll be an opportunity to move up to Accelerator with GRC tool at 25% off the pricing. So GRC tool is available one of two ways. It's either going to be added on to an existing Accelerator customer, and there's a price for that. It's $200 per month for up to 3 logins, up to 30 users. So it's $250 per month between 11 and 30 users, but it's $200 for 1 to 10. Take 25% off of that during September. We're offering a 25% off promotion to people that want to add this into their Accelerator entitlement and their subscription. Just upload it, upgrade it to the GRC. And it's also can be bought as a bundle. So if somebody does not have Accelerator, like they're a new customer, they can buy the Accelerator plus the GRC tool together at a discounted price. It is higher than the PreVeil Accelerator price previously, but it's less than adding the two together. And so, for example, it's $420 a month for the bundle at up to 10 users. And so that's up to 10 PreVeil users. So that's kind of just a quick preview on the availability, the pricing, what this GRC tool does. We're already seeing a tremendous amount of interest in this from our installed base. We haven't even run the promotion yet, and I've already got 40 emails asking for access to this thing. So a lot of excitement around this, and so we're hoping you can take this to your customers as part of their PreVeil experience as an option. If they don't have a GRC tool and they'd like to have one, now they have this really preloaded advanced experience that they can take advantage of. And that was all I had. I'm going to turn it back over to the team here.
Thanks, Greg. They're very, very excited for both CloudDrive, but certainly the GRC coming out. And maybe a question for Sam: if partners, do want to get access to the GRC price list, is that currently available? If not, when will that be made available?
I still have to speak with Vince about that. So, I think if partners have any questions regarding that, they can reach out to me, or again, partners@preveil.com, and we'll be able to get them an answer pretty quickly.
Yep. The pricing's been loaded into our operation systems now in readiness for Friday, but we do have to update the partner price list so we can add these items. Yep.
Great. Thanks. Okay. I think at this point we'll jump into Q&A. We've got a few live questions that have come in.
One thing, sorry to jump in. Just wanted to give a really quick public service announcement. If you don't know me, I am Orly. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at PreVeil, and I get to work with these wonderful guys every day of the week. But what you do probably receive from me are a lot of the marketing emails. If you are signed up for today's event, obviously all of you are, you did receive an email from me, and just want to let you know that we are having our 6th annual CMMC Summit starting on October 29th. I just want to share a couple of details about the event with you. So let me just share my screen and let you know, just give you a quick publicity announcement for the event. It'll be on the 29th of October from 1 to 5, 100% virtual. Here's how you sign up. But just wanted to give a quick couple of reasons to encourage you to sign up. In the past 2 years, we've had over 3,000 registrants. This year, with all the interest around 48 CFR, I'm sure we'll exceed that, and we're looking to hit 4,000 registrants. So just in terms of opportunities to network and learn from your peers, there's a great opportunity there. But also, this is a great opportunity if you are an existing partner or a new partner, for you to engage with lots of potential DIB contractors. We are having a virtual summit, as I said, but we will have breakout rooms where, as a partner, you have the opportunity to sponsor and get a booth. And during our breakout periods, people will come and visit you and ask you questions about compliance. So it's a great opportunity for you to build your brand, get in front of a lot of new customers, and grow your network. In the past, we've had large numbers of course, contractors, but also consultants and MSPs. And they'll be there all in one place for our event. So if you're interested in signing up, go to this place to register online, to this bit.ly. It's also listed if you go to preveil.com in the alert bar. If you're interested in being a sponsor, though, reach out to me, Orlee, ORLEE, at preveil.com. I'll share it in the chat in just a moment. And I'll set up some time to talk to you, and we can talk about what are the requirements for sponsorship. So that's it. Hope to hear from all of you. And I'll now pass it on to Jamie and the Q&A.
Thanks, Orly. I certainly can't forget about our virtual summit. Hard to believe it's been 6 years, and CFR 48 and CMMC will finally, officially be here. So that's very exciting. Should be a great event. Okay, so we do have some questions that are rolling in. I figure we'll start with the live questions, and then we'll get to as many that were sent in as well. So the first question, I'm just going to take them as they were entered. What would be the next bar after equivalent? I'm assuming that's referring back to the FedRAMP discussion. And quite simply, there are only 2 categories of FedRAMP that are acceptable within a CMMC assessment. The first one would be FedRAMP moderate authorized or higher, and the second would be FedRAMP moderate equivalent. There's really no bar after one or the other. I guess you could say the bar after moderate is high, but it's not required by any means. Doesn't buy you anything additional. And similarly, there is only equivalent. There's nothing beyond FedRAMP moderate equivalent. Can an administrator not allow local sync? Greg, I assume this is directly with CloudDrive. I know we already have CloudLock, which allows an administrator not to allow local sync. I assume CloudDrive will have the same functionality capability.
Correct. It supports the CloudLock. We're not changing that feature at all. It's just going to be incorporated into the new scheme with the CloudDrive.
Great. Next question: if a file shows locked to others, would they see who is holding it open, or I guess who is locking it?
You can see that. You're not going to see it in the application, like the Word. Let's say Word in the example I showed. It'll pop up a message saying this file's in read-only mode, and it won't tell you who has it locked because that's a Word dialog we don't own. It's built into the operating system experience. However, you can open the PreVeil app if you want and look at that object, and it'll tell you exactly who has it locked, even a timestamp of when they locked it. And so you can always see that information in our application.
And Greg, do we still have an automatic unlock time on those? I know that was in a prior iteration.
Yeah, the behavior of the locking is the same. So the locks exist for 2 hours by default.
Great. We have implemented PreVeil to address the drive potential risk. This new change seems to replace the need for that. Am I correct in that assumption? I'm not going to pretend to be able to tell you everything PreVeil does, but if you're only using it to restrict moving files outside of PreVeil to say your desktop or to OneDrive, then CloudDrive, should be able to replace that functionality. Greg, you
Yep.
seem to be agreeing.
Yeah, the piece we're missing in comparing the two is the ability to tag and classify file types. So we won't have that functionality, but the exfiltration features we will have. So
Got it. Excellent. And we kind of assume everything that's going to be put into PreVeil could potentially be CUI, so that's why we don't really worry too much about labeling. What is the anticipated cost? I do believe that question came in more for the GRC, but I think it's worth addressing the CloudDrive aspect. We're not anticipating that as a new product that's going to replace the existing product and just come with the standard PreVeil subscription. Correct?
that's right. Yep.
Excellent. So the anticipated cost for the GRC platform, as we mentioned, Greg does have some rough numbers. We'll be getting the official partner pricing here, hopefully by the end of the week, along with the rollout. If not, I'm sure we'll have it early next week. You can contact Sam, contact partners at preveil.com to get access to that partner list. Maybe sign up and we'll be sure to get it out for those that raise their hand and want access right away. Is the GRC FedRAMP authorized? Don't believe so, Greg.
No, and it's technically not processing CUI, so it's out of scope for DFARS, but it is not FedRAMP authorized. It happens to be stored in a FedRAMP authorized cloud, but that doesn't make it authorized, just like you said earlier. Yep.
Great. The GRC can be used by C3PAOs to perform assessments or just by OSCs to organize their evidence.
That is a great question. There is an assessor version of the product we're offering. We have not included that operationally yet in our go-to-market plan. There is a version that offers that. You can go directly to the vendor that we OEM from and get the assessor version. But it's basically a different organization of the data that is optimized for an assessor, and it's meant for an assessor to use with multiple customers. So that's kind of, and that's why we're not offering it initially. We're going with just the project management version for now. But yeah, there is, if there's demand for a C3PO version and even an MSP version, that is something we can look at in the future.
I think that's a good question. I think it's worth taking a look at, because if the customer and the C3PAO are using the same GRC, there might be some efficiencies to that. So I think that's worth further exploration. Talk to our C3PAO community and our MSP community as well, consulting community. Great question. Thank you for sending that in. Partner access to GRC tool. I assume they can license it for themselves, but each customer will need their own license. I don't know if we've looked too much further into that at this time. Sam, anything there? Or Greg?
No, Jamie, I think you're correct in exactly what you had just said.
Yeah, it gets onboarded very much like Accelerator. So it's the same basic operation. If a customer buys it, they get onboarded through customer success, and they get bootstrapped onto this platform, and the users of it get identified and enabled through customer success. And that works the same for Accelerator.
Excellent. Love the new version of Drive. Curious if there will be a policy to restrict sync on specific folders rather than handling it at a global level.
Yes,
this is a good question. I know this came up in our last product meeting. So Greg, I'll let you talk to this.
Yes, we have that. we want to get this out to market, right? So we're not looking to add features in the initial, or what's called the minimum viable version, or the V1 of this new Drive product. However, we have a fast follow request to handle this use case. Right now, it's going to be, the way it's going to work in the initial version is you turn on, this is specific to exfiltration. If you want to turn on or sync, you can turn on Cloud Lock basically and turn off syncing for everybody. And then you can turn it back on a per user exception basis. And then those users can sync and or exfiltrate at a user level. We also understand that a folder level would be far more useful in a lot of situations. And so we're looking to add that early next year, after the initial version gets out there. But yeah, it's a great use case that we are aware of and want to be able to meet.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I know we had a lot of discussion around that recently, so that's great. Partners, if they have a GRC tool, will you be providing the output for them to bring responses into their GRC platform? Even sounds like they might be asking about integrating their GRC with our GRC. I'm not quite sure. Randy, if you could rephrase that question, we'll try to get back to it.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, there are reporting features, and you could take report outputs from one tool and either cut and paste or input them somehow into another tool. But it's not integrated. It's very, very manual, I believe, at this point.
Yep. Multiple questions about pricing. Please contact partners@preveil.com. We'll try to get you access to the pricing as soon as it's available. Can't really provide much more detail at this time around that, but hopefully we'll have it within by the end of this week, if not right after the holiday. But we will get that out as quickly as possible. Does CloudLock work for all file types other than Office files, such as CAD files?
Yeah, basically any file, any unstructured data file type that's stored in the drive gets the same behavior. So you can edit, from the cloud using local application. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft application. I just use that as an example today, but it could have been any client-side application.
I think importantly, the application must be opened with a local client application, though, correct, Greg? It can't be something that they would normally open in the cloud.
Right. Because the cloud drive all that content is encrypted in the PreVeil cloud and won't be decrypted till it gets to the endpoint. And so the endpoint has to be the accessing, entity. So that's going to work the same as it does now, pretty much, but with more flexibility and a better user experience.
Excellent. Great. That's really helpful. I know we have that's all the questions that have been sent in live. We do have several questions that were sent in advance. We'll try to get to a few of them. I know we're starting to come up on time, but we will try to get a few of these. And we'll start with this one. So what is and I know it's obviously still being worked on, but do we have an ETA for releasing CloudDrive?
Yeah, I mean, for now, for planning purposes, we're looking at December. We're still developing features. We have the Windows version is a little further along than the Mac version. Mac is following fast, and we expect a very long QA cycle because this is a huge change. So we don't want to introduce bugs into the field. So I'm expecting QA to run through all of October and November, and then we'll look at GA in December.
Excellent. Next question, and this one gets into some detail. We'll probably answer it more at a high level, but what IT tools are customers who have passed assessments using? Cloud backup, RMM ticketing, EDR, MDR, XDR, SOC SIM, GRC. What integration does PreVeil have with any of these tools, especially logs and reports? So I think answering this at a high level is it really depends. You can, pass your assessment with any number of commercially available tools. And really what it comes down to is just identifying and delineating, are those tools storing, processing, transmitting CUI, or are they merely security protection assets, such as your SOC SIM, vulnerability management, most EDR, XDR? So, obviously, if there's something that's going to store, process, transmit CUI, and they're in the cloud or on the MSP's network, that does, add some complexity. And those services now either need to be FedRAMP moderate authorized or FedRAMP equivalent, as we discussed in the beginning, if it's a cloud service, or if it's an MSP service, MSSP, and those systems are on the MSP's environment, that MSP does need their own CMMC level 2 cert. So if it's just security protection assets, very different. Obviously, those are in scope, but they're not held to the same standard as an asset or system that can store, process, transmit CUI. And then as far as, what does PreVeil have to integrate with those? Great question. All of the PreVeil logs can be directly sent to really any SIM through our SIM connector. They're sent in syslog format. So any SIM that can handle syslog, which I think should be virtually all of them, can benefit from the PreVeil SIM connector. What are some common issues flagged during C3PAO level 2 assessments so far? Not going to go through a laundry list. One I will say is pay very close attention to your documentation. Make sure what's in your SSP, what's in your documentation matches what you're doing as an organization. Obviously, something like the GRC platform will really help you, towards that effort. Secondly, I'll kind of throw a shameless plug in here, is that every 6 weeks or so, I do bring on various C3PAOs to talk really about this exact question. If you go to our resources page, you should be able to find some of our past coffee and compliance recorded webinars. And I know the last one we did was specifically focused on this topic, as are many of them. So feel free to, go watch some of those episodes. Hopefully you'll learn something directly from the C3PAO community. Next question is around FedRAMP equivalency. Does PreVeil have any concerns that FedRAMP equivalency might go away? And is PreVeil trying to get FedRAMP authorized? So to answer the first question, no concerns that FedRAMP moderate equivalency might go away. It was written, directly into CFR 32, which is the CMMC rule. However, is PreVeil trying to get FedRAMP authorized? The answer is absolutely. The current bottleneck is that it requires a federal agency sponsor, which we currently do not have. We've been trying to get one. That's unfortunately right now, that is the only path to get authorized, is through an agency sponsor. However, as part of the FedRAMP 2025 program, the FedRAMP modernization program, they have teased that there will be a path to getting authorized without an agency sponsor, where hopefully we'll be one of the first in line if and when that becomes available. Part of being FedRAMP moderate equivalent is we cannot have any POAMs. So, it should be a relatively easy lift for us to become authorized once the agency sponsor is no longer, the gatekeeper. I know we're pretty much at time. I have just a couple other questions. I'll get to these last three. What are the benefits of becoming C3PAO level 2 certified if you're already self-certifying at level 2? I think the obvious one is, once you're authorized by a C3PAO, you've got a certificate. Self-assessment may be sufficient for some contracts in the first year, but ultimately DoD has said that the vast majority of organizations that store, process, transmit CUI will need to be, certified at level 2. Any key lessons learned for MSPs? I would say here, try to reduce scope as much as possible. If you can avoid storing, processing, transmitting CUI, I would recommend that specifically on your systems. But if you need to, then, I would say go all in and get yourself certified. It'll make your customers more confident. It'll make things more easier. Also, MSPs, regardless of what services you're providing, do make sure you have a shared responsibility matrix for your customers. That is a requirement as part of the assessment process. And then there was one question about requirements entering contracts in October. As we mentioned, the CyberAB thankfully got some late breaking news last night. That October 1st date no longer exists. It's been removed effectively. And we're just anticipating, the release of CFR 48, the publication. That will be when CMMC can begin to enter contracts. That will be when we start phase 1 of CMMC. So on behalf of the PreVeil team, really appreciate everyone joining us today. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at partners@preveil.com. Don't forget to sign up for our virtual summit in October. And otherwise, we'll hopefully see you all on the next partner webinar. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Orly.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.